Oops. Can you guys see my screen okay?
Not yet.
Okay. So everyone, this is going to be a little bit interactive. I hope you guys could come off camera or at least interact in the chat, which I will be monitoring as well. All right, how to be an effective mentor. This topic, I have done a couple of sessions before, and one of the first one was a little bit more from the mentee perspective. What is a different type of mentorship? And this one is specific from one of the members that asked me, how can I figure out what is my strength and my weaknesses? I wish my mentor can tell me that. Because of that one question prompted us to do a second session here with you guys. So I hope you find it useful, and through learning and practice, you will definitely get the hang of it. Here is one way for you to evaluate, is your mentor actually helping you in an effective way? And also, if you want to be a mentor in the future, what are some of the things to definitely pay attention? So here's the agenda. The first one is just a quick reminder of the mentoring skills model, which I have already talked at length last time. And then the next thing is 6 things every mentor should do. Then we'll go into a breakout session to test out our own skills. And here we have, probably we'll pair in like a pair of 2. Okay, so this is the mentoring skill model, right? We talked about this a couple of times the last several sessions. If, for example, from the mentee side, what are the required core skills? And then from the mentor side, what are the required core skills? And when you merge both together, in the center, there is this very strong list of skills that in order for a mentorship actually to be effective, it's extremely important to have active listening and building trust and encouraging and be able to identify like goals and current reality. So this is, I'll take a pause here. For those who have been a mentee in the past, which one do you do the best? Type in the chat here. Initiative, great. This is your mentee core skill, okay? Showing initiative, okay, very good. Acquiring mentors, following through. Ooh, that's a good one. That's a very important one. Awesome. Okay, great. What about for those who have been a mentor, or in this case, like for those who've been to my previous workshop, I prefer not to label someone who will help you immediately as a mentor. You could consider those helping you as actually an unofficial mentor. So in this case, I think all of us have helped someone in your life. If you were to look back in those scenarios, which one is your strongest mentor skills or the way you help people, if you can only pick one? Inspiring, opening doors, providing corrective feedback.
Sorry.
All good.
Sorry. Hi, everyone.
Inspiring, great. Okay, awesome. It's actually really hard to be inspiring sometimes, especially if maybe you get your well, hopefully you're not mentoring someone that's not in your core expertise, but there are some mentors sometimes was getting put in a situation where they are not fully ready yet. This is also an area that we're going to talk about. When is the right time to transition someone who is only currently a mentee stage to up-level that person to become a mentor? All right, now we're going to go into kind of like the 6 things that every mentor should do. So first is to choose mentee carefully. Can I get a couple reasons on why you think this is the case? Let's type that into the chat. If you are a mentor, why should you choose your mentee carefully? It needs to be a good match, okay. They have to be able to handle the truth. That's a good one. Sometimes people can't take feedback. Better use of time, because you want to have the skills and knowledge that they need. Mentee should be open to learning it. Correct. All of these are really, really great answers. Thank you, guys. I think for a good mentee, right, this person should be very curious, organized, efficient, responsible, and engaged. And I specifically really would love to talk about this engage one. And there are some times where, of course, during certain like organizations, right, if you get randomly paired up, you don't really have a choice whether you can choose your mentee or not. But in other situations where you decide that, okay, I want to volunteer my time to help out for the greater good, this is when it's good to be a little bit more selective of your mentee. Because let's just use this example of maybe someone expressed interest of like saying, oh, I really want to have a mentor. And you, out of your kind heart, you said, okay, let me help you. And then this person ended up just not able to be very responsive or engaged in a way that you like, right? In this scenario, perhaps you can even consider test a person's responsiveness if that's something that you care about a lot as a mentor before officially taking someone on. The certain tests that actually has been done to me to see if I'm a good mentee that I would like to share with you is I want to encourage more and more mentors do that. So one test was I got a public speaking mentor, and he in fact shared with me, I would say 4 TED Talks, 1 books, and a couple books are actually on the way, and 2 podcasts to listen to before the next meeting, which hasn't even been scheduled yet. So believe it or not, that's a test. If I do not watch all the TED Talks or read a book and just want to say, oh, let's go schedule the next one, he probably wouldn't take me too seriously. And yes, I went above and beyond. I listened to every single one of them, and I listened to all of the TED Talks, and then I talked about this person, what I love, that person, what I think could potentially improve on. And then I listened to all of the podcasts, and I even got a better understanding of my own mentor in that scenario. And I am currently reading the book before I can get to my official mentorship experience, because this way we have a common ground understanding of where I'm coming from. By the way that I'm providing feedback to my mentor in that sense, he gets a better understanding of my current ability of identifying what is actually the strength or weaknesses of a speaker that's out there on YouTube. So I encourage those of you who are a mentor for someone to test responsiveness of this mentee, because this way you will be able to really know if that person is going to be able to, put in the work. Like what Khushbu said earlier, follow up. Not a lot of people said that as a strength of their mentee, because it's actually hard to follow up. So if you do want to see the maximum input, definitely do that. All right, the second one is establish a mentorship team. So for those who were actually in this workshop last time, a couple weeks ago, please don't answer this. But for those who didn't participate in that, can you guess how many mentors I have? Just put a number in the chat. Hey, that doesn't count. Who's the first person? That's JMO George. You're like spot on. I was like, oh, he probably attended my last mentorship workshop. Okay, great. I have 12. I gave it away right away, but I have 12. So I have 12 is because I have so much different needs in different areas of my life. And I look for many different mentors in different areas. And sometimes one mentor, honestly, one is likely not have all of the expertise that I need. Second one is, yes, I am very needy. Thank you. I'm a very needy person. And also another thing is everyone's busy, so they don't have all the time in the world to be able to help groom you into someone that you really like. So this is where it's really important to establish a mentorship team where you can identify a person that could potentially be a good mentor in certain area. And you as a mentor in this case, when you're helping someone else, right? Know that your primary function is as perhaps like a go-to person for your mentee, but you don't have to do all of them. You could potentially select one or few of them to be able to provide the best resources for your mentee, like moral support or career support, institutional support. How do you choose a project, helping build a network or strategize for success? And this is where it's important to have this mentorship mindset in place, right? If you decide that, I want this mentor to help me out, you need to be able to identify, be able to articulate that, hey, mentor, please, this is my goal and this is the duration and this is what I want to accomplish. Could you help me with X? And then after they do that, follow Khushbu's lead, right? Follow up and follow through and respond, be responsive. And this is the mentorship mindset that I encourage everyone to take on. It's not only mentor's responsibility, but a very good mentee should also have that mentorship mindset as well. But if a mentee is really new, like this is their first mentorship experience ever, this is where the mentors should come in and really help out to identify the goals early on and set the expectation. That leads to the next one, which is run a tight ship. We only have 24 hours in a day. I know many of you guys don't believe it. You guys think you have 36 hours in a day and want to mentor so many people and want to be mentored by so many people. You don't have the time. So how do you run a tight ship? Give us some advice on how do you make sure a mentorship can actually be very effective and efficient. Type it into chat on what are some of the tactics that you have actually done to make sure you run a tight ship. No matter if you are a very experienced mentor or maybe looking or just being a mentee, what have you experienced that gave you this tight ship experience? Scheduled meetings, interesting. Focus meeting, have an agenda. No more than 2 to 3 mentors at a time. 30 minutes meetings. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay, I'm going to ask a couple questions here. Chimak, why do you think scheduled meetings is important?
So scheduled meetings actually help for the mentor to check in on the mentee in terms of what's going on, what's trouble, what problems you have, what barriers you face, and what things that help you along in solving those whatever situation you have, and also help and like what things you have tried as well. And maybe the mentor can actually point you to the right directions if you're kind of lost or going in the wrong direction too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's important. And in fact, when sometimes the mentor ends up telling the mentee to say, let's just have a monthly meeting, it's because the mentor have already selected the right mentee and then have a goal that makes sense to meet on a monthly basis. Or sometimes the mentor will prefer that, hey, just text me in a month or so to see if this time works or not. A cadence of communication is extremely important. And there is another one that I would like to ask the question from that posted by Vishal. No more than 2 to 3 mentors at a time, 30 minutes meetings. Could you elaborate on that, Vishal?
Certainly. I don't mean like at the same time. I mean overall in a given period of time. So currently I have 3 mentors in IBM Club, and I meet them on different days of the week for 30 minutes because I usually have a little bit of homework for them. And from my point of view, that's really all I'm interested in, whether they did their homework, and we talk about that and then leave some time for them to ask me questions at the end. So I like to keep it to 30 minutes, and then I don't feel overwhelmed. Neither they do.
So Vishal is saying that no more than 2 to 3 mentees at a time, because in this case, Vishal is actually the mentor.
Yes, that's correct. I'm sorry, I typed it wrong. That's correct.
No worries,
I personally, I am a mentee. I personally have 4 other mentors.
Cool. Great. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I agree with Vishal to the large extent. I do think that having a number of mentees that you find that's the right amount of workload is the way to go. For me, I would just share, I currently are mentoring 5 mentees. I don't meet with them on a weekly basis. Some of them I meet with them on a monthly basis, right? 2-3 weeks before the speech that they're going to give. And Sometimes it's 30 minutes, sometimes it's an hour. Depends on that day if they come prepared with something that we want to talk about. For example, last Sunday when I would meet with one of the mentees, it was originally scheduled for 30 minutes, but we were talking about her upcoming speech, and then she was helping out the club in a leadership position, and she's building a skill set that she had never done before. So I gave her a little bit more of my time because of the questions and things that she was looking for. So I think mainly depends on you, right? Like what Vishal is saying, that he is actually meeting with them on a weekly basis. That's actually a lot of commitment for mentees. And Abhijit,
So
how
I'm
many?
sorry to interrupt you, Renee, but I'm meeting with one of them on a weekly basis because she
Okay.
wants to. The other person, the other two are monthly. I should have clarified. So.
Okay, that's good to know. Very good to know. So the cadence actually give you guys a perspective in terms of usually how much mentors like to take on. Avijit, how many people are you mentoring? Avijit is an outlier, but just letting you know the scale could go up.
I cannot count, maybe 30, 40, because I will be there for them. We have, I think I've worked a system, like once I make the connection, then I don't have to go into a lot of details I can give them very pinpointed feedback, and then they give me what they need. And then we go back and forth many times. We don't have meetings regularly, but we go back and forth many times.
So Abhijit actually mentor a lot of people over Slack, right? A couple answers here and there, a few emails here and there. That's considered as a very useful engagement with some of the mentors and mentees. So in that sense, it's a very efficient way of getting the words out there and help members in the ways that need it. And for those who have not worked with Abhijit, I think you should figure out one way to get on his calendar somehow, because he will definitely transform your life for sure. He's a very giving person. And I think that's a very good strength to have as a mentor for sure.
Can I add one more thing about running
Yes,
a tight ship,
please.
Renee? At least this is the way I do it. I will not mentor them beyond one level in pathways. After that, after about 3 or 4 speeches, I say, go find another mentor. Because I don't want them to just learn from me. I want them to learn from many other people. So after usually 3 speeches, I said, we're done.
That's
Sometimes
awesome.
they don't like it, but right.
Yeah, that is awesome. I need to use that maybe. See, everyone's learning a lot of other things every day. That's great. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, I think that's because for my first meeting, right, when I talk to my mentee, I make sure I clarify that I will not be your lifetime mentor. I will prep you to a stage where you no longer need me. And then once you identify a certain area that you want to improve on, for example, humor, that will not be me because I'm not that funny. You're going to go find another coach who can help you with your humorous speech as well. So I agree with what Vishal said, which is actually one of the key points of the last of the 6th thing is, when do you make the transition? I have a message here. I think Sheryl Sandberg mentioned in her book that a mentorship relationship should always be initiated by the mentor, since the mentor needs to select the mentee. What do you think about this? I do not 100% agree, is my answer. And I don't know about everyone else. I should initiate it by the mentor. I do not 100% agree with this statement, is mainly because mentors sometimes don't know if the mentees really need help. And mentees often communicate that, say, hey, I need help in certain areas. And mentors may take on this mentee if that mentor actually has something to give in an area of expertise. For example, if I'm a mentor really good at competitive ballroom dancing, I'm not going to go reach out to Abhijit to say, Abhijit, you have been identified as my mentee. Let me teach you ballroom dancing. I don't think that's going to work. So, but if I do know someone in the ballroom dancing community that wants to learn dancing, maybe. So that's why I said I don't think I'm 100% agreeing with that statement specifically, even though I do love Sheryl Sandberg a lot and I read a lot of her books. Oh, I'll teach you tango, Abhijit. All right. Okay. A couple of things here just for your notes-taking purposes. I think clarifying with what your mentee expects from the relationship, match it against your expectation, and reach consensus is extremely important. And then establish a cadence of communication and make it clear that accountability isn't optional. I think the last one is not the most popular take on this tight ship. because a lot of times I think for us going into a mentorship, we think, oh, we'll just see how it goes and it's going to be okay if it doesn't reach this goal or not. And when accountability isn't really mentioned specifically out loud, a lot of times you end up not be able to reach a goal in the time frame that you need, right? And for example, when I worked with my mentee, I will specifically ask her, next time watch these 3 videos and let's evaluate the good and bad and how close are they are their speaking styles similar to where you want to become. And that's a very and she always come prepared with all of the homework ready and ready to discuss. And accountability isn't optional, right? So make sure that you can actually find ways to, as a mentor, to make sure your mentee is accountable to accomplish their task. Vishal, you mentioned that earlier you gave your mentee some homework to do. What sort of homework do you give them?
Yeah, so one of my mentees is a very bright young man, Alex in IBM, a hardware engineer actually. He rejoined our club recently and he asked me to become his mentor. The homework I gave him, given his leadership goals, was to read the first chapter of the HPL manual. I found it online, somebody has scanned it in. And I've told him to come back next time with his top 2 leadership goals, whether it's attention to detail, it's organizing events, it's following through from beginning to end, whatever goal he sets for himself. I said, once you set the goals, then I will tell you what kind of leadership activities you can take on in Toastmasters that will help you grow into those goals. So that's not a very big assignment. It's reading a few pages and just introspecting.
Great, awesome, thank you. Any other homework assignments that you guys gave others or being given to that you guys want to chat, send in the chat, just so we all get a feel of what sort of homeworks do we get to improve our public speaking? That'll be very interesting to see.
Renee, do you mind sharing the homework that you got, the TED Talk and everything that we have to watch?
Yeah, my mentor is crazy. I love him, but my current, this mentor, I have a few mentors, right? So the most recent one, he sent me 4 videos on TED Talks to watch, and then 2 podcasts, as I mentioned, to listen to. And he sent me a book to read. He was like, let's talk about this book afterwards. And when in our first session, the goal establishment that we put together was, I asked him, I want to find a coach who can help define Renee's voice, was my goal. And it was a pretty broad goal, but it was a very important one for me because with a lot of ethics going on and with AI explainability, with AI in healthcare, how data are being used, with BLN, with inclusivity in this whole community, I oftentimes found myself, I'm more comfortable sitting in the middle. And what happens is sitting in the middle when you're not extremely positive or negative and not taking a stand on anything, you kind of are not representing anything. So I was hoping in the next 10 years, I can really further refine Renee's point of view and have my voice be further defined. And he shared with me a couple of things that could really help me there. And in fact, that statement helped define Renee's voice. It was through a 30-minute discussion that he eventually helped me summarize because I just kept on blah, blah, blah. And then he said, how about say that one last sentence one more time? And I said, my voice. And then a couple words later, he said, how about refine Renee's voice? I was like, oh, I like that. And he was like, let's work towards that. So that's kind of like, you know, I improved a lot the last 6 years, being English is not my first language, but sometimes I still very much need someone to help parse through everything that I'm saying, everything that I'm passionate about. What do I actually really want? And in this book in particular, there is a section I'm currently very excited to get to, which I'll share.
What's the name of the book?
It's called Communicate with Mastery. And the book here is Tailoring Your Communication to Your Identity. leading in your second or third or fourth language, or leading as a woman, or leading as a rookie, or leading as a military veterans, leading as an LGBTQ person. That section I'm very much looking forward to because I think there's going to be some insights. But as you can see, I'm still working on my homework. But yes, thanks for that question. Let's take a look at the chat. Oh, Chima, that's a great question. Let's get back to that one. So some of the homework we got: review the international speakers, watch YouTube videos of international speech contests. Another mentee is brand new, Toastmaster. I asked her to read all of the path and pathways and pick her path. Next time, tell me why she picked it, right? What are the areas you need help, and think about it. And what do you improve? How do you improve speaking if English is not your first language? Since Renee mentioned it, that's a good one. In fact, I'm doing a workshop on that one in a couple of weeks. So come back on Fridays, bring your lunch. Great, awesome, thank you. And yeah, so that was some making sure that, going back to CHIMAC's Accountability Act actually here. Let's see, the question, I wanna get it right, is, does mentee ever hold a mentor accountable for anything? Absolutely, it's a two-way street. And I like to be, sometimes even just like a gentle reminder from some of my mentee to say that, hey, Renee, are we still meeting this weekend? Just to make sure. And hey, Renee, is it okay we talk about this? Like sometimes like those things are, like a good way as a gentle reminder to the mentor that this is what we're gonna work on. And also when I gave a task to a member on the club to work on newsletter, right? I gave specific deadlines on when to review what, and she meet the deadline. And then she also hold me accountable for me to give her review by a certain deadline. So I think absolutely, it's a two-way street for sure. 4, head on reefs or resolve it. So write it in the chat. Have you ever experienced a mentorship just didn't go so well, and then it kind of just ended? Say yes or no. Mm-hmm. Wow, everyone else have really great? That's awesome. Okay. All right. Well, since it doesn't seem like a lot of people have bad mentorship experience, which is awesome too. And usually sometimes the mentorship experience, if they end up, not getting to the best state possible, right? There's a couple of reasons. And there's a couple of ways of showing that. Sometimes the mentee will be extremely vocal. They will say something like, oh my God, I can't believe you asked me to prioritize this instead of putting family first. Or they will go silent on you, and they're just not comfortable of asking for any of the advice, and instead of only say things that are completely different from what they actually think about. Or there are other situations where both parties come to the table and really resolve it together. In this scenario, I would say that given mentor is usually the more experience in the area that they are trying to mentor the folks in the mentee state. It's the mentor's responsibility to be able to identify that, hey, this relationship is actually not going so well. Let's check in and figure out what's happening and really avoid the fallout and repair any risks possible as soon as possible. Vishal, since you said a strong no, what have given you kind of the leading edge here to ensure all of the mentorships are ending in huge success?
Well, I don't know if I would call it huge success, but they've been successful. A lot of the time, people come to me specifically for things like contests.
Mm-hmm.
So once I had a mentee who was competing in international speech contest. She got all the way to semifinals. She was in my club, Yvonne. So Yvonne was, like you said, very vocal, very strong-headed. It's not like I can just tell her, hey, do this, and she'll just do it. She will have 5 things to say in return. So with someone like that, you have to be very thoughtful about what you propose and why. And it's like if you are a programmer, after a while, you start to predict the kind of code review comments you're going to get from code reviewers, right? You know, this person is going to give you this. So you're prepared for it. And that's really what it is. Once you get to know the other person, you have to be prepared for it. My current mentor, Kathy Moore, is going to be the district director next year. She is extremely direct. I mean, I am direct, but she is a whole different level. And with her, the only thing that works is extreme humility on my end. She has my best interest at heart. She wants me to grow, but I have to, she is rough on the edges. So I have to weed all that out when I'm talking to her and really go to the core of her message. And as long as I'm successful in doing that, the relationship is fine. And I'm growing and she feels like that I'm growing.
That's great, Vishal.
So
Thank
it's
you
a
for sharing.
little bit of that.
Yeah, what Vishal has demonstrated in a few words here is extreme high empathy. And he understands how people communicate and not take certain things for face value and trying to round up discussion for everyone. So that's extremely important. Jamal, would you like to say a few words about the experience, why one of your previous mentorship ended?
I see mentorship, like you come into mentorship mainly because you like something about the other person or you were recommended, right? And that's how you come into a mentorship relationship. Basically, you know, the first step, what you do is like have an informational session and see if you connect. So if you don't connect, you know, it's best that both parties leave. So, and one more thing I've learned is like, you just can't run into a person and just ask, hey, can you be a mentor? Because it's one of those where you build relationship and then, you know, see if you want to mentor. So the situation I've had was, it was at work, you know, where, you know, you can choose a mentor, but then there was misinterpretation. Basically, like, you know, what I was asking was not what he was basically telling his narration, you know, basically it wasn't mentoring me. So it was more like, you know, he's just venting kind of thing. So it didn't look like mentorship for me. I wasn't getting anything out of it. So it was, but I basically said, okay, thank you. And, you know, just let it go that way. So not all mentorship relationship is rosy picture. You know, there are some that it's best to just, you know, move out of that relationship.
Absolutely. Actually, that reminded me, Khushbu, would you mind find that article that we wrote about on the previous mentorship workshop that we did? I mentioned that is because, Jamor, I think you will actually find that post extremely enlightening, hopefully. It's mainly because the way that we define mentors. And in the previous one, we defined mentors very differently. And one of the mentors is actually the ones that's gonna go listen to you and vent over coffee. And that's a type of mentor. So there's many different types, and clearly that, you know, you going into that mentorship, that's not what you're looking for. And it'll be great if you find that talk interesting, listen to a recording, but I put the slides and everything there just to share with you kind of the wide range of mentors. And this way, further clarification in your future mentorship perhaps will result in a lot more successful partnership discussions. As mentors yourself, how do you prefer potential mentees approaching you? That's also a great one. We talked a lot about it last time as well. And for this one, for me, I actually talked about how I prefer someone reach out to me. This person has a clear goal, has good communication style, and come to me to say, Renee, I think you are very strong in here, and I'm looking to improve on what. Can you meet with me regularly to do certain things? And it doesn't have to be, you know, very formal email or a Slack or a phone call, whatever it is. It just depends on the best way to find me. So that's the way that how I like to be approached. And someone who has done their homework, not just say, oh, Renee gave a talk on mentorship. Renee, can you please be a mentor because you gave a talk on mentorship? You don't know me yet. So if that's Avijit or Khushbu who have actually worked with me on a weekly basis, that's a little bit different. For those who are maybe a stranger and just reach out of the blue and think that, oh, I'm definitely going to be the best mentor in this area for you, is not going to get the immediate response from me specifically. But of course, everyone approach that sort of ask a little bit differently. If those of you who are in the audience, you have a minute and want to share how you'd like to be approached as a mentor, just to share that best practice with mentees, please type it in the chat as well. While the chat is coming in for those who are interested in that topic, I'm going to go to my next one. Don't commit mentorship malpractice. Ooh. What's malpractice? There's some bad mentors out there for sure. Taking credits for your mentees' ideas, or taking up the lead positions for any of the projects and insisting that your mentees advance your projects rather than allowing them to develop their work. Handcuffing your mentees to the timeline, slowing their own progress where you are slow to get back to them. Discouraging your mentee from seeking other mentors, which may stroke your ego, but isolate them from broader learnings and recognition, or allowing mentee to repeat common self-destructive mistakes, what we call the mentee missteps, without bringing in such behavior. So these are some malpractices. And believe it or not, if you are not a good mentor and constantly check yourself, or if you are a new mentee and didn't know that you've been put into a situation like this, it's good to come back to the list and take a look at it. If you are a mentor that's currently doing this to any mentees out there, please stop. Because if you are volunteering your time, please do some good for the community. And be mindful that it's not the mentor, you're not trying to turn this mentee into someone like you. Every single mentee is super different, and figure out their own strengths and weaknesses and do the best for that person. If you cannot be there for that person to groom into whomever that person wants to be, himself or herself, it's okay to take a step back to work on yourself first before volunteer yourself as a mentor for others. And a lot of times this self-awareness, unfortunately, comes only after you really pay close attention to, because a lot of times you, maybe here I talked about, handcuffing the mentee to your schedule, right? It's not just like slowing the mentee down. Sometimes it's like wanting to speed them up because you want them to improve faster. Just like, if you heard about me and Abhiji's at one of our mentorship sessions, he and I will practice a speech like 3 or 4 times a day for 2 to 3 weeks leading up to a competition. That sort of a frequency, it's not for everyone. So don't try to do that for everyone because, hey, you guys have, maybe like Renee and Abhiji have figured out this process, so let's do that for everyone because that's the best way to improve. No, but everyone has so much different things happening in their own life. So please be mindful of that. And last but not least thing is to prepare for the transition. I know that Vishal earlier already has mentioned, right? I actually don't want to mentor people after the first pathway. And for me, I usually prepare for the transition whenever they are ready to take on things that I personally do know that I don't have expertise in. And if you also not just, preparing yourself to take on more mentees or letting mentees go to find other mentors, but also figure out the transition for certain mentees. Are they ready to become a mentor? Because some of us are in the situation where we're in this leadership position where we need to assign certain people to become mentors, but do these mentees actually have achieved real expertise and have a very generous and coping personality and a very giving personality? If not, perhaps not suggested, because a lot of times most of the people actually have not figured out how to say no politely without feeling like, oh, I'm hurting someone's feeling. So keep that in mind as a mentor as well. Make sure when you are promoting someone to become a mentor, that mentee is actually already ready. Okay, now we're going to go into the final section of the strengths and weaknesses as a speaker. I was asked this question of how can I figure out my strength and weakness? There's no easy answer to this, and my best advice to those who are who are trying to figure out, like, am I a good speaker or not, is to really watch your own video and watch a lot of other people's videos, not just international Toastmasters speech winning awards YouTube videos, but TED Talk, but maybe other public speaking. Get a wide variety. The more that you listen to, the better you will get a sense of, I really like this. Okay, I really don't like that. That gesture is really terrible, and this gesture really works for me. So a lot of the strengths and weaknesses comes with hard work. That's the more that you put in, the more you'll be able to identify the strength and weakness that you have. For those maybe are the engineers in the room that like to have a framework, because just talking abstract is so difficult to wrap your head around, I try my best. This is what I would suggest. Here is a weakness side, right? Write it down. First of all, do you know you have some weaknesses? If you don't, maybe look at the feedback, evaluation feedback, and just look at it, because sometimes a lot of us looked at it, we're just like, what? They said vocal variety, you need to work on vocal variety. Oh my God, okay, I need to work on this again. But there's no more details. But hey, write it down. Weakness, vocal variety. If you are a few years actually into Toastmaster, you actually already seen the wide variety. You will actually already be able to identify how to overcome and outcome, right? But if you are not that type, you're brand new, this is where mentors can really come in. So for example, for the weakness part, you can write it out, vocal variety, and how to overcome it. You could say, I'm gonna say this one sentences 6 times using different vocal variety and various different parts of the words, and does that make sense? Or try 6 different tones, or speed it up and slow down, right? I'm just gonna try it and record it and watch it, and then write down the outcome. I don't know how many of you guys do this, but after BG shared his best practices with me, I actually have an entire pathway tracker that I put together in the Excel spreadsheet. So I have all of my path, I have all of my talks, I have all of my links in terms of these are my prep talks and these are my recordings. I gave myself like a little grade. I was like, okay, I did well, A- here. And I was proactively trying to work on certain things. And for me, I like to see things systematically, and that's the grade for myself. So if I'm working on vocal variety, then I will grade my next speech on vocal variety. And of course, I am comparing myself to the best speaker that I can get myself to become after watching a bunch of TED Talks, right? So this is one way to be able to do it. And an example here is maybe the weakness is, not much confidence. Then how to overcome it? You can read that sentence, remind myself that I can through it, if necessary. And the outcome, okay, that was a pretty well organized, convincing speech. I know many of you guys do this. Like one of my mentees, she came to me last minute. She was like, Renee, I have a speech tomorrow, and just only written out. And then the next day she memorized it. I was like, great job, but let's not do that again. So give yourself a pat on the back if you do ended up memorizing like 3 body paragraphs of text with such last minute preparation, because you are stretching your mental brain during those kind of exercises, even though, let's not procrastinate too much. I say even like scenarios like that, you should reward yourself, is mainly because this morning at 7:30, I gave a talk to a group of C-level executives on the topics that I haven't learned for the last 10 plus some years. I learned it for like a couple months. And honestly, I didn't have a lot of time to prepare for it. I had 3 days and all of the content didn't come in until the day before. And I had about like 3 hours literally to put everything on paper, internalize it, and present it in front of executive. And that mental strength that you have to tell yourself that you can do it with last minute pressure when everything else is just blowing out of proportion comes from Toastmaster training year after year and week after week. That grind, get it in. And when you have that kind of last minute stretch time that you need and the mental capacity you need, you're gonna know that you can deliver. And I did that like the last 3 weeks. And for many of you guys who are actually at NVIDIA know about GTC, how intense that is. And of course, the strength as well, right? What is your strength and why is it good? Can I do it even better? For example, I heard some background noise here. Okay, great, thank you. So for example, for the strength, I got a great feedback from my members that I have good body gesture. Why was it not good? Well, it's the very awkward, let's deliver a sandwich method. If you guys watch Community, and they have this stereotype of Toastmasters of these gesture delivering a sandwich. And one of the speakers in there, she ended up doing this. And then the Toastmaster told her, no, you're dropping the sandwich. So that's the inside joke if you guys didn't watch it. But you don't have to deliver the sandwich for all of the gestures, right? And then I critiqued myself, like, how can I do it even better? So for example, you go back to your listening, the recording to say, okay, here, I can even do it bolder. Like for example, yesterday I delivered a speech about this virtual reality headset that you can put on and be able to experience a fantastic meal coming from this cube looking food that save like carbon footprint. For those of you who are there, you probably saw that my gesture was completely taking over the entire screen, and I have changed that. And I try to use as much of the stage as possible to be able to tell the story that I need. And that came from after watching myself in the recording that I previously did. Or a lot of times when I get nervous, I like to do this. I will identify the area where I'm actually doing that and try to not do it. Or a lot of times I have some repetitive motion. And yesterday, a member of ours liked to do the hair flip a lot. He probably did it like 5 times with the hair flip. I understand during COVID, like it's hard to get to like a hairdresser, but you don't have to flip your hair like 5 times during a speech. And believe it or not, he probably didn't know. So in that case, if he has a mentor, that mentor should tell him, yeah, the hair flip is really good, but you really don't have to do it like 5 times in that hour, you know? And there you go. People don't know unless you have a mentor who's watching you in a very good way. All right, now we have, let's do a time check, 10 minutes. If we could do a quick breakout, I want to challenge you, okay? You're going to be paired up with another person and just say this sentence, I have a cat and I love it. And I don't care if you do love it or not, but say it with a passion. And I'm going to challenge you to say it in 3 ways, completely 3 different ways that you usually don't do it. And then after we break for 5 minutes, I will ask 3 people to come back and report on how many ways have you did it, and did it go well? What did you like? What don't you like? And the other person that's not doing that is your mentor. And that mentor hopefully will give you some insightful feedback and see what that mentor actually have shared with you and do you like it. So I'm going to ask like 3 people to come back with some feedback as well. And Aviji, if you could help me break them into rooms, that will be great. I'll see you guys shortly. I have a cat and I love it. Hi.
How are you, Renee?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good too. Hi, Chin.
Hi, Chi. How are you? Good. Ravi and Chimak, I will let you guys go. You guys will be the partner here.
Renee, repeat the exercise again.
I have a cat and I love it.
Okay, and I should do what?
And what you do is say that sentence in how many ways that you want it, but every time different.
Okay. So, Chin, are you going first?
Would you like to go first or should I go first?
You can go first.
Okay. Okay. I have a cat and I love it. I have a cat and I love it. I have a cat and I love it.
Great. Awesome. That's good vocal variety. Ravi, surprise us. Your turn.
So it's only voice variety, right? Not it's only voice.
Different. I said different ways.
Ways.
Up to you. However you interpret ways.
I love my cat. 3 words. I have a cat and I love it. I have a cat and I love it.
Great. Awesome.
I have a cat and I love it. That's, sorry.
No worries. How about you guys give each other feedback? What did you like? What don't you like? And one way to improve.
Should I go first?
Sure. Go ahead.
Yes, Chin. I mean, we could change the sentences, right? Like she said, I have a cat and I love it. First of all, we don't need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 words in that. We can express the same thing in I love my cat. I love my cat. So concise. Now, coming to voice variety, yeah, we can do like, we can use the speed, amplitude, and you already use the pitch, which is wonderful. So that is what I thought. Renee, what do you think?
Great, awesome. I really like the various different ways, like the high pitch, and I think the pace itself could potentially even be more modular, and you also potentially could even use the scream more. Like, I have a cat, and I love it.
Yes,
See,
good point.
that, like, very different, right? All right, Chimak, any advice for Ravi?
Like, I think, I'm not sure it was the second one or the third one. I think it was more the second one. You kind of drag the syllable, the cat, a little bit, and that helps with expressing your emotions. I realized that too, in addition to inflections, tones. But when you drag a word out a little bit longer, it's really emphasize how you feel about it.
That's great. Awesome. And additional things that I will add is, as we're trying to get ready for different ways of saying one line, right? It's important to also reflect, is this a true way of how my emotions will go during a speech, or is this too much? Sometimes it's good to challenge ourselves, but some other times it's also important to realize that that might just be a little too fake. So like, make sure that you actually have that almost like a sensor in your head tuned up, because you don't want to leave Toastmaster, end up becoming a very robotic person of talking about any sentences and being too theatrical and no one can really listen to your speech, right? You want to make sure it's in the right context, but continue to be with the most passion that you can share in whatever sentences that you want to deliver. So I think you guys did a great job helping each other out. All right, you guys can talk a little bit more. I will go back to the breakout room, but I think Abhijit will probably leave us, we'll leave the breakout, close the breakout room sometime soon.
Mm-hmm.
Great, see you guys soon. Hello?
Should I close the breakout rooms?
Sure, let's bring them back.
Perfect. Very informative. I love it.
Thank you. All right, I saw a lot of brave souls that came back, and I would love to challenge 3 brave souls to say, I have a cat and I love it in the most glamorous, whatever way that you wanted to do it. 3 brave souls?
I would nominate Kushbu. I would nominate Kushbu because she was very passionate about the way that she described her cat.
Go ahead, Kushbu.
Thank you so much.
Can you wait? Can you wait once 30 seconds?
Okay. Oh, there's more people coming back. Gotcha. People just wanted to hang out and they didn't want to come back. All right, we are at the final stage. We have 4 minutes to go. So right now I'm hearing from brave volunteers to show me their most dramatic line delivery of I have a cat and I love it. And Kushbu is first. Go ahead.
So you want me to deliver in one way, or the one my mentor liked, or the one I liked, or how you want?
Whatever you pick. Wow, the audience.
Okay. So I'm picking the one that Ken liked. So it was like this. I have a cat and I love it.
Nice. Look at that, a little sassy in there, isn't it? Michelle. Jay Moore, go ahead. You raise your hand.
Yeah. I have a cat. It's cute and fluffy and snow white. It says meow, meow, and I love it.
Great, awesome. And she can't help it because she really, truly loves her cat, and more description came to the picture. Let's hear from we want to hear from a male colleague, so we get some diversity here. Ken, Ravi, Vishal, brave souls.
Okay, should I go?
Hey, Ravi, go.
I volunteer, Ravi.
Ravi, go.
Renee, you're not going to feel good about this, okay? I have a cat and I love it. It tastes like chicken.
Bobby, my cat's name is Biscuit. He will not be pleased with you. Anyway, okay, congratulations, everyone. And I just want to end on this note that many of us come to Toastmasters to practice our public speaking, to be able to deliver a speech on the keynote stage with no fear, right? And with that said, no matter how you deliver, I have a cat and I love it, try to challenge yourself using this safe platform. For example, you will see me delivering speeches like, I have a cat and I love it. But you may not see that on a keynote stage. But hey, I'm comfortable in my own skin. I will challenge myself when that side of me is needed. It's going to be on the keynote stage, and I'm not going to be afraid of it because I have already gone through the training myself. So I will encourage all of you guys to take today's practice into your daily life. No matter being a mentee or a mentor, continue to challenge yourself on all fronts. And I will send out a post-show blog for you guys and the recording in case you find it useful. So thank you guys so much. And 1 minute back on your calendar. Have a wonderful Friday and the rest of the weekend.
Wonderful. Thank you, Renee.
Yes. Bye.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much,
Renee.
everyone,
Thanks,
for
Renee.
joining in. And I've shared some of our blogs post into the chat. And there are so many upcoming great workshops in this coming month of May. So I would highly recommend everyone to go to our meetings page and please register to all of them. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.